I'm Mark Blanchard from Flottante, and I got Vanessa Rivers here with me today. She's our expert mechanic at Spirit Motorcycle in San Jose, California. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to
no problem.
go through this interesting new development from India.
Sure.
What do you have for us today?
Okay, what I have today is the Stage 3 upgrade. And I'm going to talk to you why you want to do the Stage 3 upgrade to your Indian, what the component changes are, what you can expect as a result of it, and why all these components are necessary for the upgrade.
So most people probably know this as a 116 engine, right?
Well, 111. Original.
Well, the original one, but
Yeah.
the upgrade, then they're going to be calling this their 116.
The 116. Yep.
Thunderstroke.
Yep.
And so that's significant, but what does this really buy you in performance?
So what we're looking for, if it's all tuned properly, is they're claiming a 20% increase in horsepower, 15% increase in torque.
Right.
Which will work out about 100 horsepower and 127 foot-pounds of torque.
Right. Hey, you got a good memory. I got that down here on my cheat sheet list.
That's what I do all day, so that's why.
So this looks like it's a $2,000 installation upgrade plus the labor
Plus
costs.
labor.
Yeah.
I've done some of these already. We're looking around 15 hours for the job.
Yeah.
And it entails pulling the engine out of the bike, disassembling the engine with the cylinders off, obviously with new cylinders, and then new throttle body. We changed the pistons to high compression pistons. We changed the valve springs. These are set up now. Well, actually, there's two springs in here. One is for the clutch. So this is the valve spring for the cylinder head, and this is the increased pressure springs for your clutch, so you don't slip the clutch with the extra horsepower. Springs are wound specifically for this profile cam, which is different than your Stage 2 cam. It takes into account the considerably higher compression pistons. If you look right here, you'll see the big dome on top of our new piston. The original ones were flat tops.
Kind of like the Hemi Cuda, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're squishing that air up into a smaller void to increase the pressure. The result of increasing the compression ratio is you get more horsepower right out of the bat. And in addition, we're going up 5 cubic inches on a displacement. And engines are basically air pumps. The more air you put in your engine, the more power you get. And the way we're going to put more air in this engine is we're going with a larger throttle body, significantly larger, a intake manifold that has also been machined cast larger to take advantage of the larger throttle body, camshaft profiles that let the valve stay open longer to fill those bigger cylinders, and then with the raised compression, all together, that's how you get more air into your engine and make a bigger bang.
So some people may think this is counterintuitive. You're putting more air in, but yet you're making it a smaller chamber.
Yes.
Right?
Correct. Compressing it into a smaller
area.
area.
What you're really trying to do is add more oxygen density. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you have more ability to flame, to ignite.
The more fuel you burn, the more heat you make. With that heat expands and pushes the piston back down, turning the connecting rod, rotating the crankshaft.
Nothing's for free, right?
No. So there's things to consider. Theoretically, if you keep your hand out of the throttle, you could actually get better mileage with this setup because of the increased compression ratio will give you more bang for your buck at any RPM. The problem is, though, that once you have this power, is you're going to want to use it. Exactly.
You're going to be wanting to do wheelies, right?
So that's it's a trade-off, but it's nice to have it because with everything here, where you're going to notice it more is when you're going down the highway and you just roll that throttle on, you're going to feel that torque increase. It's going to set you back a little bit.
It's a visceral thing,
yeah.
isn't it? You're part of the whole equation.
Yeah, I mean, you can
twist that grip.
You can be going down the road and just nail the gas, right? And at 2,000 RPM, if you're light, don't have a passenger on, you'll probably just smoke the rear wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that why I always go through rear wheels faster than front wheels?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's the driving one. The front one's just for your braking.
Slipping whether you know it or not, right?
Yeah. But the back one's slipping a little bit all the time. You just don't notice it.
So you've got intake increase, right?
Yes.
The throttle body is much larger.
Considerably larger. Yep.
Yeah. And of course you need the Stage 1 intake
and
exhaust.
This kit assumes that you have already done Stage 1 modifications to your engine, which are the improved flow exhaust.
Or you can do it for them.
I assume I've already put them in for you. And then the high flow air filter kit. And if you don't have those two components yet, you'll need to buy those in addition to the kit.
And then it's mapped for that equation of
Correct.
air and
This whole
vacuum.
package with the pre-tuned map that comes from the factory assumes that you've done your air filter modification, your exhaust modification, and that all of this is going on to a good running engine, and then the map will mate it perfectly. If you have somebody else's exhaust system, somebody else's intake manifold system, intake air filter system, it may not be a perfect match.
What are you going to do then?
Well, then you have to go to a tuner, a
Power
power commander or
someone
something
else.
like that, and then probably fine tune it on a dyno.
And this also meets the EPA requirements,
Correct.
which is kind of the hard part, isn't
That's
it?
the big deal. If to be carb legal, and we all want to be, this is the only way that you're going to get away with that. If you change aftermarket exhaust, that's not the Indian, it's not going to be carb legal. And so,
I found that lesson the hard way.
well, it's okay until you get stopped.
Right.
Right?
Well, no, it's a question of dropping a different add-on part, which I think a lot of people have done. They drop all other parts on, they want to be customized, and then all of a sudden you're not mapping
Then there's
correctly.
no map.
And that's a big problem.
And then there's a
Cooking your
$500
engine.
fuel tuner coming.
Right,
Unless
exactly.
you, yeah, because if you lean out at top end, you're going to overheat.
Right.
It's going to definitely run hotter. That's another question. How's this engine going to act when you're riding the bike, whether it's going to run hotter or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out.
We don't really know yet
We
because
don't
it's
know
not
yet.
warm anyway.
They're so new, and it's wintertime.
Any bike, when you're sitting at the like, if it's a V-twin,
It's warm, especially if they're air cooled.
you're hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to get around.
So you got bigger fins on this, a little more mass, right?
Well, yeah, yes, it's basically
Not much,
it's
though,
basically
really,
the same casting, and what they've done is they've bored out the center, so the wall thickness is a little
But I
thinner
think
here.
doesn't it look squarer on the top head, maybe?
Let's take a look.
Maybe not.
It should be very similar to the
Very
same
similar.
casting. It's just that the bore's been increased. But yeah, so I think you're still gonna be hot at idle, no doubt about it. And when you go down the road, make sure you have airflow over it. Until we got some miles on these, we won't know.
We won't really know.
But
But it is an interesting concept because a lot of people ask me, does it get too hot?
Yeah.
Or mileage, which is kind of ridiculous when you're paying that kind of money. Who cares about mileage, right?
well, it's important because if they're doing the mod because they want the horsepower,
Right.
but they still want to do their long runs, and say you've got 160 miles between fuel stations on
Right.
their run,
Sure.
they need
It
to
is
know
an
that.
issue, right, yeah,
it
you
becomes
go
an
to
issue.
Sturgis, you're worried.
Or you have to carry fuel,
Right, right.
and account for that.
But potentially, this could actually get as good or better mileage
Right.
than the current
If
111.
you can keep your hand out of the throttle.
Which I would have not have guessed. I
Yeah,
forgot about
there's
that
that
part.
proviso.
If you don't twist the
Yeah,
grip.
exactly.
But once you have it there, it's always kind of tempting to
Right.
get into it just
Oh,
because
absolutely.
that's part of the equation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. What else do we have here that we need to talk about? I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the kit comes with all the hardware, all the seals and bolts that need to be replaced as a result of taking the engine apart, the ones that hold the camshaft gears on. All new seals for the pushrod tubes, head gaskets, and base gaskets between there and the crankcase, a new cover for the cam chest. Primary housing comes off because to put the clutch springs in, you can take the primary off, you get a new gasket for that. New clutch springs. We change the valve springs on the cylinder head when we have them off.
It's basically almost a new engine, right? You've got a lot
Well,
of new...
it's what we call a top overhaul, if you would. The only difference is we're not grinding the valves. We're just
Right.
going to change the spring on there. We're not going to take the valve out of the head and redo the seats. So you're getting new cylinders, new pistons, new rings, new wrist pins, new intake manifold, bigger throttle body, valve springs, and clutch springs, and of course the camshafts that have been
Right.
ground
To that.
to make this combination work to its peak efficiency.
And then I think a key thing that we wanted to talk a little more about is the cam,
Sure.
right?
Okay.
Its timing is a bit different. What's different
Right.
about
So
that timing?
if we were to look at the two cams, and maybe you can catch it on this,
We'll do some close-ups.
Yeah,
of
we'll
that.
do some close-ups. But the important thing is up here at the top of the lift, you'll notice on the new cams they are wider, if you will, a longer duration
Longer
that
this
the
way.
valve is open
See, it's
because
spinning around, right?
right.
And
then
what's that do? What's
So
that push up?
this lobe pushes a roller tappet, which then pushes a push rod A rocker arm opens the valve. So this is patterning what the valve is doing the opposite. So as this goes up, the valve goes down into the cylinder head. And so with performance engines, what's going to happen is you want the valve to be open longer to allow more air to get into the engine at higher RPMs. Well, that's a trade-off, because if you have it open too long for the high RPM, you lose torque at the low end. Now, by raising the compression ratio, we brought some of that torque back. The trade-off is that high compression engines also could detonate with the quality of fuel we have. So built into the profile of this cam is a little more duration at the low end to help the cylinder not generate as much pressure at the lower RPMs.
So octave additive might even be a benefit?
Well, if you were tuning for that. See, that's the other thing is if you add an octane booster to it or get higher octane fuel, it should tune up because it has NOx sensors to know when you're having detonation. So it can actually tune itself to get more power the better the fuel. But don't test it by running low octane fuel. This is a high octane only engine.
Right.
Just like it was before, even
if you
more
do,
so
what
now.
happens?
It's going to detonate. It's going to detonate. You're going to break piston rings. You're going to hole pistons. It's a bad scene.
Don't want to do that.
Don't want to do it. You want to have the best fuel you can possibly. Fresh fuel, motorcycle fuel, car fuel. 3 months, it's turning. So you gotta have fresh fuel always, and buy.
So if you think you might have older fuel, do you drain the tank?
Drain it, put fresh fuel in.
Don't want to put new octane booster in?
No, I'd rather just drain the tank. You're going to have a tank off anyway to drop the engine out.
So everyone in the winter, that's really what they definitely want to do.
Yeah, if you're wintering your bikes, you're draining anyway, and put fresh fuel in.
We don't have to do that here because
we ride all the time. That's why we're in California.
But 95% of people out there right now are freezing their butts off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, so that's basically
Vanessa, you've done a great job on all the bikes I've worked with, and
rode on that I've worked on.
that you've worked on.
Yep.
And I really appreciate your time to join us today and
no
go over what is the new amazing 116 engine.
And why?
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. And now get your bike lined up for it. No worries. I'm ready to go. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for joining today. This is Flottante. I'm Mark Blanchard. Don't forget to like and subscribe.